thanks for joining us here today. Very excited to have you all on the call and to be joined once again by Michelle Norris, who I think everybody probably knows very well at this point. Um, yeah, we really love doing these sessions. They're such great information, and I think I always walk away with more than one thing that I need to implement in my life. I'm not always the best about it, but I try, which I guess is worth something. So, from all of us at Adams Wealth Partners, Freeze Financial Group, and Gentian, we're excited to have everybody on the call. I'm going to kick it over to either, I guess, one of the Zachs here to intro their groups.
Absolutely, it's a fight of Zacks. But here at the Gentian Galactic headquarters here in Mequon, Wisconsin, and just really glad for you guys to be here with us. And we've received some amazing feedback recently from Michelle from both the previous health and wealth webinars, but also from various one-on-one scenarios that she's had with our clients and others in wealth. So we're extremely grateful to have Michelle here with us again. And my wife and I had the opportunity to actually truly eat some good food. We were in Italy 2 weeks ago, and you could eat pasta every single day, pizza every meal. Every meal comes with bread, and you feel full, but you don't feel bloated, and you're hungry again 3 hours later. And it was just like, wow, this is really awesome, but extremely frustrating that back home it's so much harder to do that. So I'm exceptionally interested today because we're motivated coming back from Italy to try to eat as good as possible moving forward. So we're extremely grateful to have Michelle here, and I'll pass it to the other Zach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. If I could echo all of that and our excitement to have Michelle again. And why we do these, right, is because wealth is nothing without your health. So excited to see what Michelle has in store for us today. At the end, we'll have some time for question and answer. So please feel free to enter your questions into the chat along the way, and we'll get to them at the end. So, Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you, Zach and Miles. I appreciate you guys, and thank you all for being here today. Today, we are going to talk about the power of the fork. It is certainly one of my most requested seminars. It's about how every time that we eat, we have the opportunity to steer our body towards health or steer our body towards disease. So that's the power of food, essentially. So we have to think about food like fuel for our bodies. Our bodies are a fancy sports car, and if we do not give them those premium gas that they need, they will not perform to our utmost ability. That is today's presentation in a nutshell, and I want to give you some practical takeaways. So by the end of the presentation, you have some real how-tos on how to implement this into your life moving forward. I am not here to tell you that keto's the way, paleo's the way, being a vegan or vegetarian is the way. If you are any of those things, I can certainly help you be the healthiest version of that. But at the root of no matter what kind of diet plan you're on, if you want to be the healthiest version of yourself, that means we're reaching for whole, real foods. All right. So with that, yes, we're going to do questions at the end. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's do it. So this is not your grandma's nutrition lesson. Hopefully you're going to hear some new things that you haven't heard before in regards to nutrition. Let's start with this quote by Thomas Edison. He said this back in 1902, so way outside of his scope and ahead of his time, but he said the doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but will rather cure and prevent disease with nutrition. This is what we're learning. This is what so much of the nutrition research is telling us. The more that we learn about this stuff, the more we realize that food has so much power over our health in a good or a bad way. So we're learning about how we can turn the ship around when it comes to diabetes by changing our diet, turn the ship around when it comes to heart disease by changing our diet. We can prevent Alzheimer's and dementia through our diet. So I mean, it's a lot of responsibility on the individual, and I think we're overcomplicating it. But if we really get down to the roots of how we were biologically designed, it's to eat whole, real food, things that come from the earth. All right. Before we get into that, I want to set the stage of what's going on in our country. How did we get there? And then how do we course correct? I'm going to show you some maps of the United States, and we're going to look at obesity trends starting in 1985, and we're going to go through 2010 with one updated slide from 2022. We're basing obesity off of BMI. If you know anything about BMI, it's okay when it comes to a health metric. All right. It's simply your height and your weight goes into a formula, spits out a number. And if that number is 30 or higher, you are technically, by our healthcare standards, obese. Are there exceptions to that? If you're a tall person with lots of muscle mass, of course, For the general public, it works okay. All right, so let's just see. 1985, light blue states, we've got less than 10% of folks obese. A little bit darker blue, we've got 10 to 14% of folks obese. And the white states, we don't have any information on those yet. So I'm going to go really quick, year by year by year. And I want you to watch what happens. 1989, 1990, 1991, we get a new category, 15 to 19% of folks, Louisiana, Mississippi, West Virginia, Michigan, look at that. Oh, you Wisconsin's 15 to 19%, 1994, 95, 96, 97, greater than 20% of folks obese in those yellow. You'll watch the Southeast. I'm sitting in North Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. We've in the Southeast tend to lead the way through this whole demonstration. Greater than 20% of folks obese, greater than 25% of folks Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia. Look at that. 2004, 2005, another new category, greater than 30% of folks obese. 2008, another new category, greater than 35% of folks obese. 2010. You guys, these slides are straight off the CDC website. I did not make them up. I literally just borrowed them, and this is what we're dealing with. And I'm not here to blame any individual. I think we have way bigger problems going on in our country that are leading to this obesity epidemic. I did tell you I have an updated slide from 2022. I wish I could tell you that it's light blue. We've got this ship turned around. We have got it under control. Our obesity epidemic is going in a better direction. But unfortunately, what you're looking at is now for the first time in human history, we have more obese individuals than we have overweight individuals. So we have 36% of the country obese, 34% of the country overweight. And then if you are a healthy weight, you are now in the minority. So what in the world? How did we get here? I've got 4 things to talk to you about. We've got the processed food industry, otherwise known in my world as the Franken food industry. Franken food made in a factory, so far from those whole real food sources. Think about the things that line the aisles of the grocery store. They line the checkout aisle at the checkout of Best Buy, at Staples, at pretty much any store. It's eye level with our kids. It's full of bright colors. It's full of sugar. We've got increased sugar consumption thanks to the processed food industry. So if you took the sugar out of the processed food industry, all those foods would taste about like cardboard. If you go to the government's website of choosemyplate.gov, this is changing, thankfully, to the MAHA movement. Whatever you think about politics, there are some wonderful things coming out of the MAHA movement. They are really trying to steer us more towards the whole real foods. Previously, what the government was helping us with when it came to our nutrition, unfortunately, they're in bed with the soy industry, the corn industry, the wheat industry, and the sugar industry. So you would see that a lot of that influenced into our dietary guidelines pushed by the government. So breads and tortillas, great sources of carbohydrates is what they would say. They would say that fruit juice is a wonderful thing to start your day with. Just fortified cereals and grains as part of great sources of nutrients for our bodies, that old school traditional pyramid, which if you've seen the new food pyramid, essentially they took the old pyramid and they flipped it upside down. We really got it all wrong back in the early 1990s when we came out with that. And then increased portion sizes, especially down here in the South, but I think it's really spread throughout the whole country. When you go out to eat and you get a meal in front of you, that's typically, if we're really honest with ourselves, a meal and a half, maybe even 2 meals. But if you're like me, you have no self-control and you eat everything on your plate, and then you're unbuttoning the top button on your pants on the way out of the restaurant because you're just stuffed to the brim. Pro tip, get a to-go box right when your food comes out. Take a portion of that meal, put it in that to-go box, and then put it in the seat next to you so that it's not distracting you, it's not tempting you, and then you have a meal or a snack for later. Don't think that you're going to have the self-control and you can get that to-go box at the end. Get it at the beginning. That way it's not tempting you right there on your plate your whole time. Okay? Some simple truths we're going to dive into. Number 1, fats do not make you fat. We were lied to for 30 years. We were told if you eat fat, you're going to get fat. And that's not true. And we're going to talk about why. Number 2, we're going to talk about the difference between simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. I am not here to demonize carbs. I'm just here to educate on the importance of reaching for the complex over simple. We're going to talk about how added sugar is a major problem, and then we're going to briefly touch on all the preservatives, chemicals, and dyes that are allowed in our food by the FDA, but that are actually banned elsewhere around the world. All right, the FDA is pretty lax on what they allow in our food. Don't let your eyes glaze over. This is the most sciencey we're going to get today. So I want you to think back to your eighth grade biology class. That's cellular biology. Around the outside of every single one of your cells is what's called a phospholipid bilayer. Lipid is another word for fat. Okay, so that phospholipid bilayer is very important. It controls what comes in the cell and what leaves the cell. So think about it like a fence that goes around the outside of the cell. It keeps the cell safe. So in order to have healthy phospholipid bilayers, we need to consume healthy fats, because lipid is another word for fat, consume healthy fats to build these healthy phospholipid bilayers. Without consuming healthy fats, we are getting fats from things like seed oils. Maybe you've heard those: soybean oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, sunflower, safflower oil. Okay, so we're going to build these phospholipid bilayers out of those seed oils, unhealthy fats. And then that's like trying to build a house out of foam bricks. It's going to look like a house, but it's not going to keep you safe. So healthy fats build us up for health at a cellular level. What are these? Avocado, coconut oil, coconut butter, coconut manna, coconut flakes, grass-fed butter or ghee. Okay, ghee is clarified butter, butter without the milk protein. Full fat yogurt, nuts. When you buy nuts, I really encourage you to buy raw nuts. The reason being is not the salt that's the problem, but in order to get the salt to stick, they have to use an oil. And 9.9 times out of 10, they're using canola oil, soybean oil, peanut oil, sunflower, safflower oil, one of those inflammatory, unhealthy fats to get the salt to stick. So buy raw nuts and then salt them yourself. The salt is not the problem. Salt is an important electrolyte. Grass-fed beef, good quality bacon. You might be going, what do you mean beef is good, bacon is good for me? Yes, but there's more to it than that. We can't just say that all beef is good, all bacon is good. Some people throw a blanket on the meat industry and say that all meat is bad. Meat's going to give us heart disease. Meat's going to give us cancer. But we can't do that either, because there's a lot more nuance to it. We have created this industrial farming situation in the United States where a lot of our cows, think about this, are raised in a feedlot. So a tiny little pen in a barn, covered barn, no access to sunlight, no exercise. They're being fed an unnatural diet of corn and soy to become as fat as possible, as quickly as possible. Because they're in such close quarters, they get sick often. So they're given a lot of antibiotics to prevent that. So they're, again, feedlot, close quarters, antibiotics, corn and soy, no access to sunlight, no exercise. Eventually it goes off to the slaughterhouse. That cut of meat ends up on your plate. But what if you had a cut of meat that was from a cow that was raised in a pasture, access to sunlight, access to exercise because it was able to roam, ate its natural diet of grass, no antibiotic use, took a little bit longer to get to a weight to where it could go to the slaughterhouse, but ultimately ended up there and then ended up on our plate. Those two cuts of meat have measurable differences when it comes to their nutrient density. So when I say grass-fed beef, I mean 100% grass-fed beef. That means that cow was able to be in a pasture, access to sunlight, all right, access to exercise, way more omega-3s, way more nutrients than compared to the opposite. Same thing, good quality bacon. When we're buying bacon or any sort of pork product, we don't want the additives. We want only basically water, celery salt, which is a natural preservative. It can have some additional salt or spices in it, but we don't want any sugar. We don't want any added nitrates or nitrites, which are preservatives that keep the meat good. That's where we get into the cancer, the heart disease, the not so great territory when it's the processed meats, when they add those additives in. So we're keeping it super simple when it comes to our bacon or any sort of processed meat. And then the beef, we need to think about, or really anytime we're eating an animal, we need to think about the life of that animal. You've heard the saying, you are what you eat, but I think you need to take it one step further. You are what you eat eats. What was the life like of that animal that you're consuming? Was it that of an animal that was like, think about a hunter that maybe shoots a deer in its natural habitat. All right, that's as good quality meat as you can find, typically, as long as the deer was in a nice environment, versus the complete opposite would be an industrial raised animal. So if you are buying meat and it's the best quality we can find with a really good quality of life for that animal, that's the most nutrient dense meat. Full fat sour cream, cheese, guacamole, nut butter, unsweetened nut milk, all good sources of healthy fat. When you're buying nut butter, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, you want the ingredient list to be 1 to 2 items: peanuts, That's it, or peanuts, comma, salt. That should be all that's in your nut butter. If you look at Jif peanut butter, it's got 9 things in it. Hydrogenated oil, it's got molasses, it's all these things that make it creamy, make the shelf life really good, just so that it has a beautiful, just on top, that swirl looks really nice. The presentation is nice. We want it simple. We want that oil on top. That doesn't mean it's gone bad. That is good quality nut butter. Carbohydrates should be complex. What in the world does that mean? Complex carbohydrates, essentially, they break down differently than simple carbohydrates. And if you look at the graph on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that is the best way to show you the difference. So complex carbohydrates, they break down slowly and they give you long-lasting energy. Simple carbohydrates break down quickly, give you a big spike in your blood sugar. They break down quickly into sugar. So they spike your blood glucose, aka your blood sugar. And then that's always followed with a big crash. So if you look at that graph, that green line, that's someone that just had a lot of protein, high fat, and complex carbs. So that could be broccoli, brown rice, and steak. The brown rice, the broccoli, both of those are complex carbs. They're going to break down slowly, give you long-lasting energy, no blood glucose spike. That red line, that's somebody that just had a bowl of cereal and a glass of orange juice. Both simple carbohydrates. They had a sandwich and a bag of chips, simple carbohydrates. That bread, the chips broke down like sugar in the body, spiked the blood sugar. Or it could be as simple as a bowl of ice cream. All of those are simple carbohydrates. They're made in a factory. They're so far from a whole real food source. And so what happens when you spike your blood sugar to 180, or you spike it at all, your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin goes and gets that sugar and pulls it out of the blood. Then you have this big crash. You know what that crash feels like? That's that 2:30 feeling. I'm tired, I'm cranky, I crave more carbohydrates, I want to take a nap. So what do? We reach for a soda and a pack of nabs, boom, we just go right back up, then we crash, and then we do it again. And for many Americans, we do this 3, 4, 5 times a day, and we are just constantly living on this roller coaster ride. And what the longevity experts are telling us, the people that are studying how to have a long health span, they're saying that every time we do this, every time we spike our blood sugar and have that crash, we are shortening our lifespan. So we need to be striving for that green line. That's going to add time to our life. Not to say you can't ever spike your blood sugar, but we need to do it intentionally, do it with friends, do it on a vacation. Don't do it 5 times a day, every day, because you are going to certainly take time off your life. Majority of the time, we should reach for those complex carbohydrates to keep our blood sugar more stable. What are they? Brown rice, sweet potato, brown rice pasta, quinoa, beans, oats, lentils. Additionally, any root vegetable, any green vegetable, all of it, people say, I'm on a no-carb diet. I'm like, oh, what'd you have for dinner? Steak and broccoli. Okay, well, broccoli is a carb, just FYI. But it's a complex carb, and it's a wonderful source of carbohydrates. Right? Any sort of green vegetable, any root vegetable, all of those are going to break down slowly, giving you that long-lasting energy. So when we are saying, okay, I'm going to go on a low-carb diet, even if we're just on a regular moderate carbohydrate diet, if we're going for longevity, if we're going for health span, the goal is complex carbohydrates. Added sugar is a major problem. This is a pop quiz. The World Health Organization recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar per day. Right? Not natural sugar from fruit, not natural sugar in dairy. We're talking about sugar that is dumped in to make something sweeter. No more than 25 per day. How many grams of added sugar is the average American consuming daily? Ready for it? 90 grams. We are getting nearly 4 times what the World Health Organization recommends on a daily basis. And when you think about that, there's 39 grams of Coke and 39 grams of sugar in 1 can of Coke, not a bottle, 1 can, 39 grams of sugar. That's all of your sugar for today and some of tomorrow. That's how quickly it's adding up. 1 serving of Sweet Baby Ray's has 16 grams of added sugar. Your All-Star tuna packets have added sugar. Ketchup, added sugar. It's in everything. So we need to start to be aware of how much added sugar we're consuming, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in a few slides. Lastly, okay, there's a lot of words on this slide, but I want to just point out that the FDA here in America is incredibly lax on what they allow in our food. We have over 9,000 food additives that are allowed into our food products. If you compare that to Europe, they have about 400 food additives that are allowed. Europe is very strict. You have to prove that a food additive is safe, not going to cause bodily harm before it's allowed in the foods. The FDA, they have a very lower standard for proving that it's safe. They allow things in, and then they say kind of like, oh, if we find out it's bad, we'll pull it out later. For example, artificial colorings, petroleum-based dyes, they have horrible side effects for our health. We're finally recognizing that. And by the end of 2026, we should no longer have to worry about petroleum-based artificial food colorings being put into our food system. So as long as nothing changes by the end of 2026, that will be something that we don't no longer have to worry about. There are still 9,980 more food additives that unfortunately we should be raising an eyebrow at. And these are just a few. So you guys will get a copy of these slides after the presentation and you can become more familiar with them. But really, I just want to let you know that the FDA is very lax on the things that they allow in our food. And this is one more reason why we should be reaching for predominantly whole, real foods. Because if you think about that, like an apple, what's in an apple? Just an apple. What's in green beans? Just green beans. What's in broccoli? Just broccoli. What's in, if you're buying chicken breasts or chicken thighs, what's in there? Just chicken. All right. That's why if we reach for those whole real foods, we don't even have to worry about the food additives. Right? We don't have to overcomplicate it with those and getting into the nitty gritty of the ingredient list and reading what's in there, deciphering whether or not something can come home with us. If we just stick to the whole real foods, we skip this altogether. To elaborate on that, maybe I just took away a lot of your favorite foods. So what in the world are we supposed to eat? And I love this quote by Charles Poliquin. He was a famous strength and conditioning coach and nutritionist for many Olympians and all-star athletes. And he said, if it doesn't swim, run, or fly, or isn't green and grow in the ground, don't eat it. Let's keep it really simple. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, eggs, meat, beans, oats, lentils. That's about it. If we can do that, real food, 80% of the time, the 20% of the time that we want to drink the wine and eat the brownies or whatever it is, we can do that and our body stays in balance. That's how we prevent disease. But when that 80-20 becomes 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, we can't cover it. We can't cover the frankenfood when we're only eating that, when we're eating that 50% of the time and the goods 50% of the time. That's when we see weight creep on and the disease creep in. Where do we find these whole real foods? Every grocery store is set up the same. Around the outside. That's where you should be spending the bulk of your money. 80% of the money spent around the outside. That's how we stay in that 80-20 rule, right? Next time you come home from the grocery store and you're putting your groceries away, I want you to think about this. Am I putting the majority of my groceries in the fridge or am I putting the majority of my groceries in the pantry? If the majority of your groceries are going in the pantry, you need to call me and we need to have a chat. All right. We need to revamp your grocery list. If the majority of your groceries in the fridge, you probably did pretty great. All right. A+ from me. There's exceptions to every rule, right? Think about that. Think about the aisles of the grocery store. What are those exceptions? Nuts and trail mix, depending on the oil, right? The inflammatory oil that they may be using. Kind bars and Larabars. These are great snack bars. When I say Larabars, I mean they're like a date-based, cashew-based. Sometimes some of them have dates, some of them are nut-based. They typically have 3 to 4 ingredients. They don't have very much protein, but they're a very clean, quick source of energy for you to bridge the gap between breakfast and lunch. Kind bars, I mean the long, skinny kind of kind bars, not the breakfast bars that are closer to a square, but the long, skinny kind, they only have 5 grams of sugar. Nut butters, so again, keeping it very simple with the ingredient list. Olive oil, balsamic vinegar, brown rice or quinoa pasta, a wonderful pasta alternative. Rice cakes, frozen rice or quinoa, spices, condiments. Careful with your condiments. They pack the sugar in, and many of your condiments like your mayonnaise, your salad dressing, they're predominantly soybean oil or canola oil. So we want to look out for that in the ingredient list. We want to buy products that are made like Primal Kitchen, which does only avocado oil, Chosen Foods, only avocado oil, and they're making wonderful salad dressings, wonderful marinades, and wonderful mayonnaise for you that's not made with the inflammatory seed oils. Granola, we can't just assume that all granola is created equal or that all granola is healthy. They tend to pack the sugar in, and then they'll also use those inflammatory oils. So less than 10 grams of sugar per serving is the goal. And then ideally, we're not having any of the inflammatory oils, I love to recommend Purely Elizabeth granola. It's about 5 to 6 grams of sugar per serving, and she uses coconut oil. And then frozen veggies, a wonderful aisle exception as well. So let's say you're walking down the aisle and you want to know if something is an aisle exception. I want to retrain your brain on how to look at that nutrition facts label. All right, so you maybe recognize this box, brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart box. What a wonderful way to start our day, right? This was me every day before fourth grade. I'd be eating 2 Pop-Tarts because Pop-Tarts are packaged in packages of 2. And that package is not resealable. That's incredibly confusing and misleading if you look at the serving size. That's why I have an arrow pointed there. And hear me when I say, you can eat as much of a product as you want. I'm not saying that you have to eat what the serving size says, but I want you to know that the rest of the information on the nutrition facts label is based off of 1 serving. So if you're going to eat 2 Pop-Tarts, you have to double all of the information below. That's why this is important. So eat as much as you want, but be realistic with yourself about how much you're consuming of how many calories, how many grams of sugar, how many grams of protein, etc. So 1 pastry, we've got 210 calories. Keep coming down. We've got 2 grams of saturated fat. Saturated fat, we demonized that for a really long time. We were basically like, if you eat saturated fat, you're going to get fat. You're going to drive your cholesterol up. You're going to get heart disease. And we got that wrong. All right. So we need to stop panicking about saturated fat. Trans fats, they are very detrimental to our health. They became illegal in 2015 because they are so harmful to us. So they gave food companies 3 years to pull all the trans fats out. You shouldn't have to worry about this anymore, but just do a double check. Keep coming down. We've got sugars, 16 grams of sugar in 1 Pop-Tart. So again, I was eating 2 Pop-Tarts, so we need to double that. I was eating 32 grams of sugar to start my day off as a little 10-year-old girl. And then I was off to school to sit at my desk, to sit and be still and quiet and focus. And meanwhile, I've had more sugar than I should consume in an entire day just for breakfast. The American Heart Association, they're actually a little bit stricter. They say 20 grams max per day for women and 36 max per day for men. So by the end of this presentation and moving forward, you guys, I want you to pick a number for you and your family. You can use that 25, which is what the World Health Organization says, kind of across the board for everyone. You can go with what the American Heart Association says, but I want you to start to try and keep the amount of added sugar you're consuming on a daily basis below whatever number of grams you decide on. For our family, it's 25, less than 25 grams per day. Spend it however you want, but that's all you get. Let's keep coming down. Let's zoom in on the ingredient list. All right. So if we were all sitting in one room together, I would look at all of you and I would say, does anyone want to volunteer to read this ingredient list to us? And you guys would look at me like I had 20 heads. Of course you don't want to. Okay. So red flag number 1 is simply the number of ingredients. This is clearly a Frankenfood. All right. It's so far from a whole real food. It's got ingredients that we can't pronounce, and it's just got a ton of different ingredients. So those are 2 things that, right away we could basically just say, let's put this back on the shelf. But if you wanted to get into the nitty-gritty and say, what exactly is in a Pop-Tart? I'll remind you that ingredients are listed in order of abundance. So the most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart is enriched flour. 2nd, 4th, and 6th most abundant ingredients in a Pop-Tart are different names for sugar. Brown sugar, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup. Why don't they use all one? Why not all brown sugar? Why not all corn syrup? Why not all high fructose corn syrup? And the answer is that would then become the most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart and have to be listed first because they're listed in order of abundance. So let's say they used all high fructose corn syrup. That would become the most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart. So I'm a mama. I've got my 3 little kids. Maybe I'm not in the nutrition field at all. And I'm walking down the aisle of the grocery store. I flip over that Pop-Tart box and I see the first ingredient as high fructose corn syrup. I've heard on my Instagram that high fructose corn syrup isn't that good. Back on the shelf it goes. The food companies know this. They try and hide these ingredients that we know are not so good for us. So they pull a little from here, a little from here, a little from here. They just stick it in this laundry list of ingredients. They hope you don't recognize it. And they hope that we are not informed consumers like you are now, and that we throw it into the cart because enriched flour doesn't sound that bad. Now you know their tricks. You know what to look for. Additionally, keep coming down, we've got TBHQ. It's a form of butane used to preserve the shelf life of these frankenfoods. This is why the expiration date on processed foods is 20 years from now. That's another red flag. If something doesn't expire for the next 10 years, we should be wondering why. Why is this going to be good through the zombie apocalypse? TBHQ, the FDA does recognize it has negative consequences to our health. And so you can only use so much in your products. Side effects, nausea, delirium, vomiting, asthma. We have an asthma epidemic going on in our kids. I fully believe that the processed food industry has something to do with this. Okay, because maybe you're only eating one Pop-Tart, but then you're eating some Goldfish, TBHQ. Maybe then you're eating some Cheez-Its, TBHQ. All right, so it's in a lot of these processed foods and it adds up. A little bit from here, a little bit from here, a little bit from here. Keep coming down, we've got caramel color. It's linked to lung cancer in rats. It's on California's list of potentially toxic chemicals. It's illegal in 2 countries in Europe. Anywhere else in Europe, if you have any caramel color in your product or any artificial coloring for that matter, you have to put a warning label on the front of your product because they know it's so detrimental to our health. Not only is it in your Pop-Tarts, it's in your wine, it's in your Skittles, it's in your M&Ms, it's in any dark colored candy, it's in your Sweet Baby Ray's. All right, it's in any dark color soda, Diet Coke, regular Coke, Pepsi, anything that's dark, it's in there. We need to start to be aware of what are the chemicals and preservatives that we are putting into our bodies and what are the negative consequences of those. They are certainly not steering us towards that idea of health and longevity. They are steering us towards disease. Let's keep going. Back in 2020, we got a new nutrition facts label. You'll see the old one on the left that was originally published in 1990. For 30 years, we kept it the same. As of 2020, we finally got a new one. They updated a few things. The calories got bigger. Don't care so much about that. But what I am excited to share with you is that now food companies have to be incredibly transparent about how much added sugar they are dumping into their products to make them sweeter. All right, so let me give you an example of how this was confusing previously. So yogurt. Yogurt, all dairy products have a little bit of natural sugar in them called lactose. So previously, if you were to look at the old nutrition facts label, it would say total sugars 4 grams, let's say. And you didn't know how much of that was natural and how much of that was added. Did they dump in any extra to make it sweeter? If you've ever had unsweetened plain Jane yogurt, you know that it's not very sweet at all. Most of us Americans are addicted to sugar, so the dairy companies want us to buy their products, be addicted to their products, so they dump in the sugar. And previously, they didn't have to tell you how much they dumped in. It would just be total sugar, 4 grams. You don't know. Now they have to say, this is how much we've dumped in to make this product sweeter. So again, there's natural sugar in fruit, natural sugar in dairy products, but a lot of times, if you look at the ingredient list, it'll have additionally added sugar to make it even sweeter. And this is how we track how many grams of added sugar have we consumed so that we stay underneath, let's say, that 25 number for the day. So I don't know what this product is on your screen, but if you look at that nutrition facts label on the right with the red arrow, look at the second red arrow, includes 10 grams of added sugar. That's 10 towards your 25 for the day. Look at that second arrow, that percent daily value, 20%. So we've been talking about this idea that you should not consume more than 25 grams of added sugar per day. The American Heart Association says 20 for women, 36 for men. But if you're doing that math there, 10 grams of added sugar is not 20% of 25. It's not 20% of 20. It's not 20% of 36. So what in the world are they basing that percent daily value off of? And what the sugar lobbyists came in and influenced the FDA to do is they were like, hold on, this is going to be really bad for our business if we start to put this number on here. Because if you look at the old nutrition facts label, there was no percent daily value across from sugar. That's because the sugar lobbyists influenced that significantly. Fast forward 30 years and into an obesity epidemic, they lost that battle. They had to put a number in the percent daily value column. But what they've done is they went into the cahoots with the FDA and they said, listen, let's just base that number off of 50 grams of added sugar per day and tell Americans that that is a safe, allowable amount of added sugar they can consume. And let me tell you, if you consume 50 grams of added sugar on a daily basis, you will not be a healthy human being. You will be steering your ship straight towards disease, unless you're some sort of crazy ultramarathon runner, and that's less than 1% of the population. So we're going to ignore that percent daily value column, or we can double it. So whatever this product is, it's actually 40% of your sugar for the day, or we can ignore it and just go by the grams. This is 10 grams towards my 25 for the day. What does this look like? This idea of eating whole real foods. If we were to put that into practice, what does it look like? Healthy breakfast ideas of whole real foods, eggs, any way you want. Eat the yolk. We demonized the yolk for a long time. We said it had high cholesterol and it was going to raise our blood cholesterol. And we got that all wrong. All right. Your dietary cholesterol does not raise the amount of cholesterol in your blood. Greek yogurt and fruit. We're just watching the sugar content in the Greek yogurt. Overnight oats, oatmeal smoothie, acai bowl. These are wonderful ways to start your day if you're making sure that you're adding protein and healthy fat to them. If you're making overnight oats or you're making oatmeal, don't just do oats and water or oats and almond milk. Add healthy fat and protein. Add a protein powder. Add hemp seeds, chia seeds, peanut butter, coconut oil. All right, that's going to help give you that long-lasting energy, not spike your blood sugar followed by the crash and make you hungry an hour later. Crossless quiche or leftovers. We think about breakfast has to come from the breakfast food category. You could eat steak and broccoli and sweet potato for breakfast and your body would love it. All right, it doesn't have to come from the breakfast food category. Lunch ideas. My lunch hack, something you have to eat with a fork that is not pasta. Think about that. Could be a salad, could be a build your own bowl, could be some sort of rice or grains on the bottom, some veggies and a protein on top. Could be some kind of salad with just greens on the bottom. If you like a sandwich, we could go with the Ezekiel bread or like a homemade sourdough. Dave's Killer bread is an okay option. If I was going to list those in order, I would say Ezekiel bread, then homemade sourdough, then Dave's Killer bread. If you like a wrap, I love the Siete almond flour wraps. Or if you want a really low carb option, even at Aldi, they sell them. They're called Egg Life. They're made from egg whites, an egg white wrap. Right? You can do soup and salad. You could do leftovers. That's what I have for lunch. I'm looking at my lunchbox right here. It's green beans, carrots, rice, 2 egg muffins, and a turkey burger patty. It's quite a hodgepodge. We're getting to the end of the week. Okay, so I just threw a little bit of everything of the leftovers right into a bowl. I'll nuke that, and that'll be my lunch. Dinner ideas, similar concept. So some kind of protein. Could be a plant-based protein like tofu or tempeh, could be shrimp, could be chicken, could be steak, could be some sort of turkey burger, or we do ground turkey like tacos, and then a veggie and a complex carb. You could do it all together in one pan like a brown rice stir fry, could be separated out. Last night we had burgers. We just do burgers without the bun, and then we did sweet potato fries and a side salad. You could do spaghetti squash as a pasta alternative, breakfast for dinner. You guys will get a big follow-up to this presentation that has a lot of the recipes that I'm talking about. It has the slides. It has a grocery store cheat sheet to look out for some of the brands that we discussed today. And then I'm also going to send you my protein snack cheat sheet, which has protein bars, protein shake recommendations, and then just high protein snacks in general. Snack ideas. When you leave your house in the morning, I recommend take 2 snacks with you. Our society certainly does not set us up for healthy snacks on the go. So here's a couple options for you. RX bar, Kind bar, beef jerky. I love the Chomps or the Archer's beef jerky sticks. Epic bar, fruit and nut butter. So an apple with a packet of to-go almond or peanut butter. Almonds or any kind of nut. Protein shake, so like the OWN, OWYN, or Orgain, or Kate Farms, or Remedy, or Rebel protein shakes, not Premier protein shakes. So if you guys like the Premier protein shakes, we're going to drink up whatever we have left in our kitchen, and then we're never going to buy them again. All right. They have those really toxic emulsifiers that are toxic to the gut. And then they have that sucralose, which is the artificial sweetener. It's also toxic to our gut and our brain. Greek yogurt, Vega bars, the Cliff Whey bars, not traditional Cliff bars, but Cliff Whey bars or the Cliff Nut Butter bars. That's a better option. Rice cake and nut butter, trail mix, the Aloha protein bars, or the IQ protein bars. All good, healthy snacks on the go. I'm going to wrap up with this and then we're going to do questions. So if you guys lived near me, one of my favorite things to do is have people to come to my house, and I love to cook for them. And I love to cook healthier versions of our favorite comfort foods because there is a healthier way to make nearly anything. And that's what I like to show people. We have this idea in our head that healthy food can't taste good. And so I like to prove them wrong, essentially. So these are some of the dishes that I like to make. We do this once a week. Fried chicken. My 4-year-old calls it chicken fries. Think about the old school shake and bake chicken where you take the chicken tenders, you dip it in egg, and then you dip it in the Ritz cracker crumbs, Swap the Ritz cracker crumbs for almond flour and coconut flour, and then I pan fry it in avocado oil. You could throw it in the air fryer or you could bake it. All right, it's homemade chicken nuggets essentially. So for all you that have kids on the call, try that. Lasagna, we're swapping the noodles for really thinly sliced sweet potato. Get a mandolin, slice it really thin, and we're swapping the noodles for sweet potato. How cool is that? I know that sounds so crazy. Like, why would you put sweet potatoes in a lasagna? But the sweet potatoes absorb all the flavor of everything around it, and it's so delicious. Waffles, this isn't even something you have to make. This is instead of buying Bisquick, we're going a couple items over in the grocery store and we're buying the Birch Benders Paleo Pancake and Waffle Mix. More protein, more healthy fat, and not just a carb bomb at breakfast. Mix it with water and you're good to go for pancakes or waffles. Jambalaya, pretty healthy meal in general, but if you wanted to make it a little bit more complex carby, you could use black rice, which is also known as forbidden rice, or cauliflower rice, two of the most complex carby options. And then we're cooking with avocado oil over something like canola oil, soybean oil, ham, or a lot of people use olive oil, which is a wonderful, healthy oil at room temperature. It has a very low smoke point. So when we heat it, it loses its nutrient density. Avocado oil or butter does not. So cook with that. Okay. So if you're making a salad dressing or drizzling an oil on your food, you can use olive oil. I have a wonderful homemade bun or bread recipe. It's a great alternative to traditional burger buns, or if you like breakfast sandwiches or chicken sandwiches. 6 ingredients, you throw it into a bowl, you mix it all together, form those little buns, bake it for 15 minutes. There's no yeast. You don't have to let it rise. It's not a labor of love. It's very easy. And then you can have buns for sloppy joes. We talked a lot about pasta alternatives. So instead of white or wheat pasta, we're doing something like brown rice pasta, quinoa pasta. I like the chickpea pasta if you can find an organic version. Chickpeas are one of the most heavily sprayed crops with glyphosate. Glyphosate is that really toxic pesticide. Zach talked about how he was just in Italy and he was able to eat all the pasta and bread that he wanted. They are not allowed to use any glyphosate in Europe. All right. So that's part of the reason why that we tolerate it so much better when we go over there. Our wheat, our bread, our pasta sprayed heavily with glyphosate. And so that's very toxic to the body. And it's a lot of what gives us that awful feeling, that really tired feeling, the gut disruption, the bloating. So if we buy organic chickpea pasta, brown rice pasta, or quinoa pasta, a lot of times we can avoid that. I mentioned that Sweet Baby Ray's has 16 grams of added sugar and caramel coloring in it. So if we can buy something like the Primal Kitchen barbecue sauce or make our own, that's a much healthier version. It's really, really good too. All right, in summary, and then we're going to do some questions. We're going to minimize how much sugar we're consuming, or at least we're just going to start paying attention to it, and then we can work to minimize it. We're going to eat whole, real food 80% of the time. We're going to read the ingredients. What is it that we're putting in our body? We should know that. Nothing should go in your body without reading the ingredient list, okay? Plan ahead and spend that money around the outside the grocery store. All right, here's me. You guys remember, you have me as a resource. Email me, call me, text me anytime with your questions. That's my email address. That's my phone number. If you guys have personal wellness questions, that's a place to do it. If you have general wellness questions that we talked about today, or just anything else that applies to maybe more people on the call than just yourself, we're going to do that now. You guys can go follow us on Instagram. I will tell you that my sister and I run the Instagram together, and we gave it up for Lent, and we have not gone back. Let me tell you, it feels so good to be off social media. So I don't know if we will go back. There is content there. You can go back and search through our old posts if you want some more little nuggets. But for right now, we are not posting any content actively, and that is why. All right. Let's do some questions.
Yeah, I have a couple, Michelle. Thank you for that. That was extremely helpful. And I have
Sure,
some
yeah.
questions thrown in here, but also had a couple where kind of my story of Italy to back here and being motivated to find healthy things. One thing that has been difficult for us, even when you're searching for healthy things, buying vegetables, fruits, then you see a report come out that that's actually not because of the pesticides. Is there a way to double check that? Like, even though you're buying healthy stuff, you're actually not eating something that healthy.
Yeah, organic. That's what you're going for. So if you buy organic, then you know you're not getting that glyphosate or any of those toxic pesticides. If you want to get real into the weeds, if that farm is downstream from another farm that does use pesticides, then it gets real tricky. But the best we can do is buying organic when we can.
That's great. And
Michelle, isn't there also a Dirty Dozen that you can use
Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
So the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, does come out with the Dirty Dozen every year. So what they do every year, they test all the produce and they look at the non-organic produce, okay? And they're looking for the highest concentration of pesticides, and they come out with the top 12 list. So the top 12 fruits and vegetables that have the highest concentration of these pesticides on them based on their testing. And so in our family, I do understand that it is a different price point to buy organic than to buy non-organic. But obviously, I don't want the pesticides. So the compromise for our budget and for our family, what we've done is we look at that Dirty Dozen, and the things that are on that Dirty Dozen is a non-negotiable. We buy organic. And then for the things that aren't on that list, we buy non-organic, and then we just try and wash really well. Or it's something like watermelon where you cut the rind off, or a pineapple, you cut the rind off. So you guys can go and look at that, and it changes every year because pesticide use changes depending on the seasons and the weather and the soil and all that. Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Would it help if I read it off quick? I have them right here.
Yeah, do it.
Spinach, kale, collard and mustard greens, strawberries, grapes, nectarines, peaches, cherries, apples, blackberries, pears, potatoes, and blueberries. And by the way, I just want to make sure that people don't realize the benefits of sun-dyed grapes. I'm just raising awareness.
Nice. I think those are the ones.
Michelle got that. Michelle got that.
I got it. I got you. Raising awareness, y'all.
There we go. Thank you.
Those are the ones that have the most amount of pesticides, just to clarify, right, Chris?
That's
Or-
correct.
Those are the ones to buy organic. That's right. Yep.
Buy organic versions of those. Yes.
One other quick one here for you, Michelle, just as navigating a grocery store and like going through the different, nutrition labels, are there any great apps that you've come across to be able to help us navigate the store? I know MyFitnessPal I've been familiar with in the past, and then I think a new one recently that just goes through the additives is Yuka, Y-U-K-A.
Yep.
Have you come across any others or have any experience with any of those?
Yeah, Yuca's great. There are a few exceptions to it, but for 95% of the products, I think it's really spot on looking at those additives. It'll say things like your Chomps jerky stick or your Archer's jerky stick has a lot of sodium in it. But if you remember that sodium, which is salt, it's an important electrolyte. So if you're eating predominantly whole, real foods, you're not getting a lot of sodium in your diet. So to eat one Chomps jerky stick is totally fine. We don't need to be worried about that. There are little caveats to that, but for the most part, Yuka does a great job. I use the Environmental Working Group app. It's called Healthy Living by EWG for all my shampoo, my household cleaners, for my makeup, for sunscreen, any sort of body cosmetic product or cleaner, laundry detergent, dish detergent. You can scan it. It's the same concept of Yuka. You can scan it and it'll give you healthier alternatives so that you can kind of get some of those toxins out of your life. I like the supplement app called SupCo, SUPPCO. You put all your supplements into it, and then it'll tell you, based on your goals, are you taking the right things, first and foremost? Secondly, are you taking things that, okay, you're taking this multivitamin, but then also you're taking additional folate. Do you know you're getting 880% of your folate for the day, and that's too much? It's a really great app for that. What other apps? So Ivy is another one that's similar to Yuka. You scan it and it gives you kind of a grade on your food. You can check that one out.
Michelle, we got a couple of questions coming in. What about Javi protein coffee?
Yeah, I was actually just looking it up. If anybody has it, if that person is I'm trying to look what the sweetener is because I feel like I looked it up before. I want to know if it's sweetened with sucralose or I'm on their website around nutritional information, select a flavor. Let's go banana bread. Okay. It's sweetened with Ono Sweet. So I don't know what Ono Sweet is, but it's no sucralose. So I say proceed with caution. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
The next one is how about Nuri protein shakes?
Yeah, you guys are giving me all these things I'm not.
Nurri.
Yeah, let's see. sucralose and acetylfoam potassium. Yeah. So that's sucralose. That's one for me that I really personally, for my family, we don't touch. It's an artificial sweetener toxic to the gut and the brain. So it's something that makes a product sweet, even though it says no sugar added or diet or sugar free, something like that. So that is a no from me. I like the Orgain. I like the OWYN, OWYN as alternatives for a protein shake.
By the way,
Okay.
the Ono Sweet is a branded, it's a natural sweetener based on the fermented derivative of rice, so or other plant sugar. So it's like stevia, but it's based on rice.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going.
And
Javi
then
protein coffee.
in the same vein, Michelle, are you familiar with Life Boost brand?
Like
It's a
some people
coffee.
call it Boost. Oh, Life Boost. No. Okay. No. You guys, all these good
Um,
new
There's a
foods you're
proliferation of
teaching me about.
health foods that are out there. I found a Pop-Tart at this Sierra store, the Sierra, which is like Marshalls and all. It was fantastic. It had
Uh-huh.
1 gram of carbs, and I got it home. It tastes incredible, and then I realized it was sweetened with sucralose. I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I was hoping it was
Oh
Montford or
gosh.
something else, but I was wrong. So, but it tastes really good.
Oh,
1 carb,
I'm sure.
1 gram or
Life
one.
Boost coffee.
Yeah.
I'm on the website. So tell me, is it just a bean, like a specific bean? Is it organic? It is organic. That's great. Yeah. Um, it looks wonderful. So about only 3% of the world's coffee is organic, and I think that's changing. I think that's going up a little bit. But that's something to look at too, buying organic coffee. Traditional coffee tends, if it's not organic, obviously it's been being sprayed with glyphosate or some other toxic, pesticide. And a lot of times that actually leads to mold. A lot of our coffee is moldy. Moldy mycotoxin illness from mold is really toxic to the body. So buying organic is a wonderful way to do that. Circumvent the mold and the pesticides. Mm,
okay. Now, next on the list, curious as to why fruits are not on your list of snacks.
I don't know if I put fruit or apple with nut butter, so I should have, elaborated on that a little bit more. Berries are a wonderful source of, or going back to Chris's point, organic berries are a wonderful source of complex carbohydrates. It's a wonderful snack. Apple with almond butter or peanut butter. If you are on a serious weight loss journey, I would stick to the more fibrous fruits. So that would be all the berries. That would be anything with a peel, a pear, an apple, where you're actually eating the peel. Banana, that one's more high in sugar and you don't eat the peel. That's the fibrous part. So that's one that I would steer away from. But if you're just a healthy weight, trying to maintain that healthy weight, going for longevity, any fruit certainly is fair game. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a recommendation or an opinion of taking creatine for women if it's beneficial?
Yes. The more we learn about creatine, the more we realize it's not just for the bodybuilder world. It can be for any of us Joe Schmoes. It's great for our brain. It's good for preserving muscle mass. Obviously, the type of creatine does matter. So we want to make sure we're getting it from a really good quality supplement company. We've talked about that in the past. Thorne, Thorne, makes a wonderful one. That's what I would look into. 5 grams pre or post workout can be, yeah, wonderful to your health, women included.
Great. Thank you. I don't see any other questions in there right now.
I have a quick one for you here, Michelle, just being a mother yourself. For those of us with younger children or really children at any age and trying to get them on a
Mhm.
good path for a healthy diet, would you recommend kind of similar structure as you had for like the breakfast, the lunch, the different
Mhm.
snacks? Are there anything to look out for there? Because you go through the kids aisle too and all the pureed food, you like start reading through the ingredients, you're like, oh my God,
Mhm.
it has all the stuff that
Mhm.
are in like the Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my advice to parents, like if you can get them on this path from the beginning, then they don't know any different. The hardest thing is when parents come to me, their kids are 8, they've, gone with the traditional way that America teaches us to give our kids all the packaged foods, and then they're trying to get back to the whole real foods. They're addicted. They are on that sugar. They are addicted to those processed foods. And it's a lot harder journey than if you could just start at the beginning when your kid starts to eat whole real food, or when your kid starts to eat food, it's whole real food. We never make a separate dinner for our kids. Our kids eat exactly what we eat. We go to Costco. There's tons of wonderful, healthy snacks. It's the same snacks that we buy for ourselves. Our kids do not get goldfish. They don't get Cheez-Its. They don't, They don't. And I know that probably sounds like a crazy mom, but it's because I'm trying to set them up for success long term. Do we have some flexibility when we're out at a birthday party? Of course. But for the most part, when I am the one giving them their food or dad, then yeah, they are eating exactly the way that we're eating. We never did baby purees. My kids were breastfed until 8 months old. And then I would just put in a food processor for like 2 seconds, whatever we were eating for dinner. And then I would spoon feed that to them. So maybe it was salmon, broccoli, and sweet potato in a spoon. Yeah, right into the mouth. Didn't do any purees. I would say there's one exception to that. I did the Serenity pouches for my son for a little bit. If you needed something on the go, they have meat actually in them. They're an organic pouch option that has healthy fat and protein in it, not just pureed fruit.
Extremely
By the way, my
helpful.
daughter's favorite aisle when they go to the grocery store is the baby puffs in the aisle. I kid you not. They think it's a hilarious snack to get, and they just run to it. I'm like, girls, that's not healthy even when you're a baby.
Yeah, Daddy,
You're right.
Daddy loves the Sesame Street puffs over here.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well enough.
Oh,
So, do you guys want to end with one dad joke here?
I think we've already
Okay.
had one, but I'll take another
No, no, that's all
anytime.
right. I'll give you another one. So, why did the orange lose the race? It ran out of juice. At any rate, so you can use that one with anybody you'd like to. I know it's good.
Thanks,
Is there
Chris.
is there anything onto a serious note? Is there anything emerging that you think we should pay attention to? Because the field is changing a lot with AI and a lot of discoveries with it as well. But is there anything you can see like paying attention to now? Something we should focus on just for our own health or something that's emerging we could look for articles on and read about?
There's always new things,
Hmm.
but sometimes when the new things come out, we forget about the basics. So I want to
Yeah.
remind you of this saying of a lot of us are trying to mow the lawn while the house is on fire. So we're focused on our supplements. We're really good at doing our sauna practice, but yet we're eating fast food 2 meals a day and then we're having pasta with hot dogs for dinner. Like the biggest piece of the puzzle is the nutrition piece, moving our body, trying to sweat a little bit. And once we have that down, then we can have a conversation about getting into the weeds of the new and upcoming latest trends of your, red light therapy mask and your cold plunge. So get the basics down. And
Hmm.
then we get, from an emerging standpoint, my husband and I just got a cold plunge. He got it for me for Mother's Day. Isn't that hilarious? He got himself a cold plunge for me for Mother's Day.
It's
Anyways,
like buying a vacuum. Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm trying to think of what I need for Father's Day. So if you
Yeah,
have any guys
exactly.
have good examples
I'll take
or good
that.
suggestions, yeah. So, but we are using it, so I'm gonna be able to report back consistent cold plunge use, what that's done for me. We're
Mhm.
doing that. The sauna practice, the red light therapy stuff that's coming out. AI, I think, is such a useful tool when you're trying to figure out if you know your macros of like, okay, I know I shouldn't be only eating 1,800 calories a day, 30% from protein, 45% fat, the rest from carbs. Put that into AI and just say, hey, these are the foods I like to eat, or I want to eat something close to a whole real foods diet. Give me an example meal plan. Use it for that. It's a wonderful resource. Or for people that have food sensitivities, what are foods that I should eat if I want to stay away from dairy? Put together a meal plan for me. Or Michelle says I need 30 grams of protein every meal. What does that look like? I think that could be really beneficial too.
Michelle, what I've done with that as well is I've put so the blood, I had some significant blood tests taken and put into it. So I've
Mhm.
also got my genetics. So I put all of that into a project in GPT. And what it is, I've asked it to act as the top functional medicine doctor in the world with my genetics when it comes to both supplements, when it
Wow.
comes to foods and everything. So, and then I'll update it, with data that we have here. But what it now is, it gives me at least an idea. You don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need to supplement this. You're getting too much of this in it. So if you give
Mhm.
it truly everything you have, and then when you retest, you're putting that data in. It's pretty amazing to see at least, is it 100% correct? I can't tell you because I'm not an expert. You could. But for me, at least it gives me that thing when I don't
Mm,
have to bother you. Hey, what about this? What about this? How about that? I mean, it at
so
least gives me
cool.
some basis. And when I ask it to function as that top functional
Hmm.
medicine for myself in the world, focus on these three items, it'll give me the foods as well. So I appreciate what you said.
That's very cool. Yeah, use it in that way. And if you use those words like functional doctor or holistic health,
Yes.
then it gives you, more of the lifestyle side of things versus the
Yeah.
meds.
Just straight blood work. Hey, lower your A1C. How do I do that?
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Just put your blood work in there.
Well, I want to thank you tremendously on my behalf. Just even seeing you at the national conference in front of all the advisors there, getting to expose, people to you that I think that your expertise. Thank you for dedicating your life to making us healthy. We really are grateful for that. I know I speak for both, Miles and Zach and Tim and David as well. We're just so appreciative of you and what you do, and then bring to our clients because this disseminates to all of them. If they may not be here today, they get this, they get the summary of it, and they look at and read it afterwards. So thank you tremendously for what you do and dedicating your life to it.
Thank you guys so much. This is awesome. I love this.
Thanks, Michelle. Can't wait to see what you have for us next.
All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your day.